Hello, hello. I'm making a video with Papa Dog. He is on the couch and it is very nice and cozy and relaxing, and this is what I love, and we need to make it nice for ourselves. This is so important that we enjoy things, that we have something to look forward to every day, something to do, some artwork to do, some sewing, some video making, some blog writing, book writing, and so on. And to have someone, to find someone somewhere who you can trust and who you can do things with, and go hiking together with your dogs. And I met two very, very nice men today on our hiking trail, and Paul was talking to them, and Papa Dog and we talked a little bit too, and they both had a dog. One guy had a pug and one guy had a West Highland Terrier girl, and Papa Dog does not like other dogs so much to come near him. I think it's a combination of bad experiences with other dogs in the past before we rescued him, and also jealousy, a little bit jealousy. What if they come and take his place? That could never happen, I told him. I got him up in the van, and then we sat in the door of the van, and I always put my arm around him and I kiss him on the head, on this beautiful, beautiful brain, and I told him, nobody can take your place. Mama loves you infinitely much, and you are my everything. And then he calms down a little bit and says, all right. And then I give him a cookie, and I give the other ones a cookie too, and there were some tame ravens I gave cookies to. They're very smart. And so, yeah, it was nice. It was nice at the beach. So I recommend to people to do this, wherever you live. Even if you live in a big city, somewhere in a high-rise building, you can go down the elevator, you can get into a taxi or into a bus and drive to the outskirts and go hiking and enjoy nature and the trees and the nice autumn atmosphere. It's wonderful. So I had some thoughts under the shower that I wanted to discuss today in my video. Always have some dust in my eye and in my throat and in my lungs, so it's full of dust. I need to vacuum again. I always use a rug sweeper that does not pick up all the dust, It just sweeps up like larger debris and stuff, and hair and all kinds of lint, but it does not pick up the dust, of course. And so every so often I have to use my orange vacuum cleaner and vacuum the entire house, and even that doesn't get all the dust out, but that's okay. I prefer to have padded rug than hard floors. Also, when you have a dog, it's better to have a padded rug. What if they fall, or what if they roll over? They have to have a padded rug underneath. This is very important. So yeah, and what if your old husband falls? That can happen too, and if you have a padded rug, that is a lot more practical. That can prevent a hospital visit even. That's better. That's so much more important than the little bit of dust that we get into our lungs and all of this. So much hype has been made out of that. That's all crazy. So, but anyway, I had some thoughts under the shower about, all these conversations that I've had with people, particularly with men, particularly with younger men in the last 10 years or so on the internet. And most of them were from a troubled and shady background. It's not their choice. This is how they grew up, and they have been absorbing wrong values and wrong beliefs, and as Tony Robbins calls them, impotent beliefs, almost literally. So a lot of men think that sex has to contain violence. Not just the people here in the United States, but also in Europe even, and particularly in the Middle East and Africa. And there was one guy one time in Germany, long time ago, I dated, from a guy from Nigeria, and he actually told me, and they have practices there where they sew up the vagina of the women so that they become very, the opening becomes very narrow, and when they have sex it hurts them. And I learned that also in my anthropology class in Santa Monica College about African anthropology. It was very interesting for me to take that class. And so just 2 years or so later, I met this guy from Nigeria in Germany when I was studying psychology over there, and I met him on the street. He was walking in front of me with this galabia, which is an African gown that's I think that has to do with one of the Muslim religions, and it is this very beautifully colored African gown with African colors and patterns, orange and yellow and light brown, very nice sort of paisley patterns. And I was admiring this gown, and I was thinking about Kenya. We visited Kenya many times. It's so beautiful, but never really got to meet indigenous people so much, only the ones that were working there. And it was sort of like it wasn't a very realistic situation because we were staying in a 10-star hotel, and it was all sheltered and protected, and it felt very wrong to me, even as a child already. Felt quite wrong. I felt like there was something wrong with the situation. It wasn't real. It was quite segregated and all of this. And so anyway, I got to meet some. I got to talk to some, and they were very interested how it is like in Germany and so on. And there were some quite decent and very educated and knowledge-hungry people who were working in that hotel that were from Africa. And it was fun. It was nice. I went hiking with one, and he showed me his friend. He had a gorilla friend, a gorilla female, and the gorilla female was actually jealous of every girl he brought along, and she came running towards me. And luckily there were bars between us, because if there weren't, she would have shredded me into pieces. And I totally understood. I felt only deep love for her, and I felt sorry for her to be in that prison, because she's a gorilla, and she could kill someone, but she should be put back into the jungle where she belongs, into freedom, not be in a prison and have a human boyfriend who doesn't even mate with her, most likely, and who doesn't even I don't know how much intimacy they have, how much he pets her and all of that. They all need to have a lot of cuddling and petting, not just sexually. So I felt sorry for that gorilla, but that was all very interesting. And then there were some camels, and some camels had their feet tied up with a rope, and that was horrible for me to see. They couldn't even, both the two front feet and the two back feet were tied together with a rope, and they could only hop forward, and it was very difficult for them to do in that heat. And I didn't even see that they didn't even seem to have water, but there was a fresh water river nearby, so I think they would get some fresh water from that little stream that they had. But all of this is absolutely awful, how animals are kept, and those were the milder cases, you know. Horrible things are happening around the world, and in particular around the equator. That's where it is really the worst. That's where there's no animal protection at all, and I suffer for them. I'm very worried about this. I always have to talk about these things also in conjunction to about any video that I make, because this is so incredibly important when I associate these things with whatever I'm talking about. I always venture out into these subjects as well and mention them, because it's important that people know about this. And this whole anthropology class was conducted in a very politically correct way, and the teacher said, very nice teacher, very liberal, you know, I understand, she means well, all of it, it's all good. It's just that the problem is, she told us some horrific things that they do to animals and children, also in the name of their customs and their religions and their superstition. I'm not going to get into the details right now of it, but she immediately said, yes, but don't come to quick conclusions about judgment on them, because we shall not judge them. We should accept what they do and be tolerant towards it. I didn't say anything. It just didn't feel right. And for many years I've been thinking about what she said. And after she told us these atrocities, and I thought, there's no way and that's also when I realized I am definitely not a liberal, and I'm also not a conservative, because all of these things fail when people look the other way when it comes to atrocities. And it doesn't matter whether these atrocities have some kind of ritualistic tradition. The word tradition alone is something I question very much. That's why I'm also not a conservative. How can I be if I question all traditions, particularly when they are cruel. So no, I'm not going to be tolerant towards this. You know, I want all living beings to be safe. I want the animals and the indigenous people and the Western people and whoever, and the Asian people and everyone in the world to be happy. But you don't have to, and that brings me directly to the subject I wanted to talk about. You don't have to be cruel to feel a sense of gratification, whatever it is, whether this is your kinky needs that definitely come from torment. That can be brought from one generation to the next in form of either tradition or in form of just simple hidden neurosis. Tradition is also neurotic. It's all neurosis. Okay, it is traded from one generation to the next. If no one questions it, it will keep on going indefinitely. And that's why I'm saying someone has to stop it somewhere. You have to stop it. We all have to stop it. At some point, we have to say no to it. No to burgers. No to female circumcision. No to halal slaughter. Or those are just three of so many. I could never list this in one video. I couldn't list it in 10 videos or in 10-hour talking about it. The things that are being done around the world, the cruelties that are being done in the name of tradition, religion, customs, and so on. So that's why I'm saying, when it comes to suffering, this is where we have to draw the line. If someone likes to make a tea in a specific fashion and has a specifically colored tea kettle and pours it from 3 feet above the cup, and so those kind of things, that is all perfect. I have no problem with it. If they want to ring bells or whatever, chimes or jiggles or whatever, or singing certain chants or mantras, all perfect. All keep it going, Maybe mix them, bring some other ones in, like Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche used to do, all like 4 different type of tea ceremony traditions from different traditions and different Asian traditions and so on. It's all wonderful, it's all nice. But when it comes to cruelty, this is where we have to draw the line. We have to. Okay, we have no choice. We have to say, I'm sorry, whether this is a tradition or not, this has to go. Okay, this cannot be tolerated. Absolutely not. And I'm certainly not the person who is going to go in there and throw myself in between and get butchered up in the process. It's like throwing myself in front of a train to stop a train. It's not going to happen. But, as Jiddu Krishnamurti said, the only way something can be reformed really from the ground up, bottom up, so to speak, not just a top-down force that comes from outside. Like he said, if you have to shout, it's not the right kind of shouting. It's not the right kind of educating or communicating. So if you have to use force of any kind, whether it's verbal or physical, it's not going to work. These reforms have to come in form of recognition from every single individual. Chances that this is going to happen in the next couple of years is extremely unlikely. Okay, it's, to be totally honest, it is so unlikely, like me finding a meteor at the beach and selling that for $100 billion. That's how unlikely it is. So, and that's why I'm hoping for the robots to come, because the robots can do an awful lot of good. People will straighten out like you have no idea. Suddenly, oh, I'm cool. It's all cool. It's all cool. It's all cool. Oh, I don't need violence. No. But if there's no big nanny looking over people's shoulders, the violence escalates, the cruelty just gets worse, and the kinky stuff, a lot of violence and sexual habits, habits of kinky sort, and even traditional types of that, and then becomes even more convoluted when religion plays a part in this. And this Nigerian guy I was talking to him about my anthropology class, and And of course, we were talking about sex and all of this. And I said to him, it is absolutely cruel to do female circumcision. And he got all upset and he said, with his Nigerian accent, women should suffer. It's like, what? And that was pretty much the conclusion of our relationship, because I kicked him out. I said, if you want women to suffer, then there's the door, because I'm not gonna put up with that. And apparently his former girlfriend Petra also didn't put up with it, because he said Petra is a mean girl, mean woman, mean. And I thought, oh, how mean? What does he mean by mean? I see what he means by mean. Anyone who says no to his cruel tradition. So, yeah. And that's why I think this is very important to say this, because I don't want people to be caught up with their liberalism, with their Western shame, the shame about the past of their slave ancestor, their slaveholder ancestors, and so on. We probably all have them somewhere down the line when we don't even know it. Certainly not the ones that I know, but who knows? I don't even want to dig down into the book of my ancestors, or the ancestor history and so on. But I think I'm going all the way back to Genghis Khan and Vladimir the Impaler. So yeah, there are some bloodthirsty people, probably somewhere the 10 generations back in time or something, from German and Hungarian and Gypsy and Armenian people among my ancestors. So yeah, but what matters is who you are. You are not your ancestors, okay? You are also not your country, you are not your tradition, and you are not your political affiliation. You are much more than that. You're much more than a liberal, much more than the person who wants to belong to that party or that cocktail party or that barbecue party or that music genre, or whatever it is, reggae or country. You're much more than that, okay? You do not, your body and soul is not confined to those ideations and ideas that are generated by the human ego and traded to you and given to you, put on your shoulders as well. So you can definitely leap out of this anytime, definitely become conscious about leaping out. And when someone embraces violence, I'm telling you right now, girls out there and also boys and adult people, get out of it right now. Say no to violence. If you identify yourself with country music or with some redneck assholes, I say to you, get out of it. You can still like your music genre or whatever, your favorite music songs, but become conscious. And in that consciousness process, I guarantee you that it is most likely that you're not gonna like Ted Nugent's music anymore. When you really become conscious, when you do that, make that leap forward, when you really meditate on this and question all of this, and question why you adhere to this, then it will become more and more gradually, more and more clear to you that someone like Ted Nugent is cruel, and this is cruel, and this is cruel music. It's not no good music, no music, no nice music comes out of a person's ego like that. No, someone that hunts or uses bow and arrow to shoot a pig, an innocent animal. And this goes also much further, and the more conscious you become, the more aware you will become about cruelty, about the cruelty that you participate in unconsciously, unknowingly even. You will become more conscious. You will not ignore something, some message that comes passing by you, which a lot of people do. Someone says, go vegan, and here they disappeared as fast as they passed by you. If you're unconscious, you dismiss this with one hand movement. But the more conscious you become, you will say, what's this all about? When I was petitioning for the whales in LA, most people passed by me and with a hand movement. Oh, what's that? What kind of weird woman? Ugh, spooky. And I would always say to them, would you help me to protect the whales from active sonar? And most people have never heard that term, active sonar. And first they go, protect the whales, ha 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 ha, are you a hippie? This is so outdated. And then, what? Active sonar? I haven't heard about this. What's that about? And and then some people were, and most of those didn't sign it. They just walked away. They didn't care. And some people said straight in my face, I don't care. I don't care about whales, they would say. They'll tell me straight in my face, I only care about humans. Yeah, human embryos. So, and there was one guy who actually said to me, there are human embryos that are aborted. And I said, what does it have to do with the whales? That was the most bizarre conversation I ever had in my entire life. That guy, that fat guy with the two heavy 99-cent store bags in his hand. The bags were like pinching into his fingers. But he stood there. He didn't even put those bags on the ground to relieve his hands. He just stood there with his hanging shoulders and pinching plastic bags, pinching his hands with all the heavy stuff that he got there. And he wouldn't go. He just kept on talking about the aborted embryos. And so it's this unconsciousness in people that I see that is directly responsible for so much suffering in the world, for so much ignorance, and for so much denial. Religion causes so much denial. People don't even understand that there are things that are much worse than death. Suffering is much worse than death. I saved 3 beings from existence, from suffering, a horrible, gruesome life. Well, maybe they would have been lucky and not suffer. But the chances are so overwhelmingly high that they would have suffered. Well, what's the point in this? Why cause a being to suffer if you don't have to? And all of this comes from religion. Just as the female circumcision comes from religion, and all these other horrendous cruelties that are even worse There are traditions in South America where they crucify albatross birds, innocent albatross birds that want nothing to do with their shitty crucifix and their shitty Jesus stories and all of this. They want to be free. They want to be nesting out there, down there in South America. They want nothing to do with that shit. And these people come there and they capture out of some kind of shitty Jesus tradition. They capture an innocent, highly sentient being, and a huge albatross, bigger than they are. These birds, they're bigger and heavier than those people that capture them. And like 10 people hold one down and pin them down to the ground and hold the wings and nail that poor thing onto a cross and hold them like this, and that bird is screaming in pain and fear for religion, for tradition. Okay, I just want to put this into perspective, these kind of things. This can be transcended. This can be stopped and transcended if we come to our senses, if people come to their senses. So, and the same also, cruelties after cruelties also in the Western world. All kinds of cruelties and all kinds of kinky ideas that people have, that a woman needs to be spanked and so on. Big butt, I need to spank. Doesn't make any sense. I don't want my butt to be spanked. I don't want kinky, cruel stuff. What is the point in this? What's the point? I don't understand. It's like I'm an ET or something. I come here, it's like none of this stuff makes any sense. This is so idiotic and hideous. And I want people to start to question these things. Or like fast sex, What's the point in it? I don't understand. Why not enjoy slow and mindfully and enjoy every moment of it, instead of these fast banging and hitting and whatever and choking or whatever they do? I just don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get humans around the whole world. And I just want people to start to question these things, It's one thing if someone is a masochist. It's another if they're a sadist, hurting someone else. And it is the ultimate atrocity if they hurt an innocent animal who has nothing to do with any of this neurotic stuff. Leave those animals out of it. Leave them alone. Don't hurt them. Don't rape pigs. Don't do it. You have plenty of women who want your attention. Leave the animals alone. Don't rape a dog or any animal. Okay? So, food for thought. Okay? You guys take care. Bye bye.